Welcome to Marveling at the MCU, a podcast that mixes geekdom with nostalgia as a comic book geek and a film nerd rewatch the movies of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm Dave O'Hara and I'm the resident comic book geek.
My name is Ollie Lewington and I'm a film nerd. Today is part 2 of our look at Avengers Infinity War, released in April 2018, directed by the Russo brothers and written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely.
Last week we talked through the film world that Infinity War was born into, the comic world it was born out of, and where we last saw our Avengers and the Infinity Stones themselves. If you haven't listened to that last episode yet, feel free to skip back now. We'll wait.
Welcome back! And without further ado, because we have no more ado to be done, let's get into our breakdown.
Love it. So we open on the Marvel logos with some ominous music playing over a distress call from the Statesman, voiced by, damn it, director of the first Thor film.
Kenneth Branagh.
Yes, Kenneth Branagh.
Really? That's cool. I like that.
So we see Heimdall, played by Idris Elba, lying in pain as Ebony Maw, played by Tom Vaughan Lawler, telling everyone that they've been lucky to have been killed by Thanos. We have Thor, played by Chris Hemsworth, one of the best Chris's, and the legend that is Loki by Tom Hiddleston, who are both also clearly in trouble. I mean, Loki's kind of standing there with all this panning around him, and Thor is not in a good way. We have Thanos, played by Josh Brolin, calmly explaining that destiny always arrives and it's him. He already has the Power Stone on the gauntlet, which is the purple one, implying that he devastated Xandar, and he wants the Tesseract, which Thor is quite adamant was destroyed on Asgard, and Loki gives a little look and produces it to, Thor's characteristic, "You are the worst, brother."
Yes.
Yeah, we then we get some cool lines from Loki about we have a Hulk. Cue on screen the Hulk, played by Mark Ruffalo, just barreling into Thanos, but Thanos promptly puts him down to the point where Ebony Maw is basically, no, let him have his fun.
Yeah, it's interesting that Ebony Maw is kind of clearly saying, Thanos is easily powerful enough to overcome overcome Hulk. Sorry, and Hulk up to now is kind of the being who can kind of pretty much trash everyone in a fight.
So it's one of these film things.
Hulk's gonna win,
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it's like one of these film or TV tropes, isn't it? It's what I call the Worf effect in Star Trek, when you have Worf, who is the big muscle man, and he's security chief. He's really tough, and so in every episode, pretty much when you want someone to look like they're really big, bag, and strong, they always beat Worf up just to underline the fact that they're really tough. So it's kind of like it's the Worf effect. So again, Hulk, big and strong, normally can deck most people, and the fact that Thanos then takes him out, he only has one stone at this point, and it's not lit, so he's not using it, key, just to establish that, he's pretty kick-ass. You get to see, and obviously scale-wise, they're about the same size, so it's a pretty quick way to underline the fact that, he's beaten Hulk on his own. He's pretty tough. I mean, it's a cool little scene, and when Hulk's lying there, Heimdall calls upon the old dark magic to Bifrost him away, but gets killed for that. I mean, again, this is a nice little callback to the first Avengers film when Loki's saying to Thor, how much dark energy did the All-Father have to use? Just implying that Heimdall is able to do it without because obviously the Bifrost is destroyed because Asgard is gone, so the observatory's gone and all that kind of fun stuff. I am going to correct myself from the last one. He does have a sword in the comics because I researched it more. I don't know how much it doesn't channel the Bifrost. Oh, no, it does. It is involved in it. So, yes, it is a thing. Because I did, as part of looking into this again, just refresh myself. We're going to talk about the dwarves later. And obviously, at Nidavellir, they make loads of cool weapons. One of them being Hofund, which is the name of his sword, Heimdall's sword. So, there you go. I will correct myself from last one, which I'm happy to do with no humility at all. But either way, he's still holding the sword.
Just abuse in the comics.
Yep. It's fine. I'm happy with it. But either way, he ends up bifrosting the Hulk back to Earth, or we don't know at this point, but he sends him away anyway, and gets stabbed for this, which obviously Thor not happy about. So either way, it's a pretty dire opening.
It's not great, is it?
It's not going great. It's not going great. I mean, there are some absences. Like we haven't seen Valkyrie, we haven't seen Korg, we haven't seen a lot of things. So it's implied. I mean, it's kind of. I think it's implied that they got away because they're not there. You know the
It's
whole
interesting because to me, it's implied that they're all already dead.
but we establish in this that he kills half the people. So it's in my head. I'm like, well, then he let half go away
He
essentially.
kills half of the people
Yep.
in a given like planet
And
or
this is in theory all of
country or
Asgard.
whatever it might be. He kills everyone who gets in his way, which is why I considered the rest of them to be dead at this point, which I did find kind of funny that there were a few characters that were established in Ragnarok, and after Taika Waititi kind of said, well, this is a standalone film,
Yeah.
then everyone else has gone, okay, it's a standalone film, we're just going to get rid of your characters because they're weird and rubbish.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that we see some of them actually dead, we know that those are definitely dead. But yeah, no,
Yes.
my implication is that some of them did, because remember there was also the Grandmaster's ship, so they could have got away, and I think that's exactly what would have happened. That
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
and also for the plot, like later on, he's going to need some Asgardians to be with, and I'm pretty sure he does say in the film that he killed half my people.
I don't remember that, but
There is
you
it's
may
either
well
that
be
or it's in
right.
the next one. There is some reference. I'm sure there's a reference to it at some point, but I'm now obviously
Hmm.
going to have to watch it again. But either way, it's an ominous opening, and it's only about to get worse because after beating the Hulk, Thanos now has the Tesseract, crushes it into a nice little bit of glass, and adds it to the gauntlet, which Loki does his kind of off-camera. Oh, maybe you need a guide. Smarmy way of
Yes. Yes.
slinking in a very low key manner, but the little looks he kind of gives Thor, and then when he's making his little spiel, and you see the knife just appear in his hands, and obviously Thor can't say anything at this point.
Yes,
And
yeah,
he makes
but
that
you can totally read in
you can
his
read into
expression.
it,
He's going like, "Oh, dude, don't do this."
but at the same time, I think he's kind of well, he respect because it's Loki's doing the right thing. He's standing up to him and stuff like that, and you can see he's changed kind of thing. And then he makes the attempt. It obviously doesn't work. And then we get a fairly brutal death scene for Loki. Almost like a handover, I guess, for the bad guy of the MCU being replaced by
Hmm.
the bigger bad guy of the MCU.
One of the things that I find quite interesting is it's not quite as clear in this as it could be that obviously Thanos and Loki know each other, because Loki only came to Earth with the Leviathans and the Chitauri and everything else because Thanos sent him,
Yep.
albeit like via an intermediary, but still they
But
do
Thanos was there.
like know each other.
Yeah, Thanos was there. He was kind of in the room, so to speak, because he was in the chair on the corner.
Yes, yes,
Yeah, when
exactly.
yeah, and then this is a brutal end to him. But you get obviously you see Thor's emotions going through through the obvious stages of him losing his brother, and the way that Thanos drops him and just says no more resurrections this time, implying the whole no he ain't coming back
Yes,
in this film.
really enforcing it
Yeah,
and making sure we understand the
because
situation now.
in Thor Dark World he inverted commas dies, and yeah you know it's not him, he's not dead, but it's very much flow like you say underlining the fact that he's gone, done. Yeah, then he uses the power stone to blow the old ship up, and then the space stone to teleport out of it, which I liked. The teleport scene where he kind of vanishes is kind of reminiscent of when he's in the comics, because he's all techno and teleporty and stuff like that. He teleports all over the place. He's got his ship and stuff like that, but he also teleports, and it kind of looks like that, which is quite nice. Except in the comics, it's very much like a rectangle. It's like a doorway kind of thing, kind of like the if you watch the Loki series, the TVA, when they're using their portals to teleport. That's how Thanos teleports, but it's blue like the space stone teleportation thing,
Yeah,
and he
yeah.
just uses it to walk onto planets and stuff like that through that. So it's quite a nice little way that I thought they did. I don't know if it's intentional, but I thought it was.
I like the animation of it. I like the sort of cloud of purple
Yep,
and
as it sucks him up.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
this I was also one of my. I don't have many gripes about this film. I love this film, obviously, and these are very, very weird, picky ones. I get very annoyed that he disarmors very quickly into the film. I'm like, oh, God's sake, just keep the damn outfit on. Um,
So just before he zaps himself into his space stone portal thing, he sends his four like goons to Earth to because there's two other stones on Earth. And this is probably a good point to talk about them because I assume that they are
yes,
relevant
they are
slash
relevant.
significant.
They are a thing. I mean, they're relatively recent. He says in 2024, in being that they first appeared in, I believe, in Avengers, New Avengers, Volume 3, Issue 8. But 2013, they appeared in 2013, and yeah, the Black Order. They're basically Thanos' goons. There's normally a fifth member called Supergiant who has like mind control powers in the comics, but obviously she's not in this film. So we have in the Black Order, so we have Corvus Glaive is the first one. He was the first servant. He's the dude with the he's I was gonna say he's the dude with the stabby thing. Oh wait, that's not. He's the one. Him and Proxima Midnight, who is the girl. They're the ones who are. It's not explicitly said in this, but they are husband and wife.
Right. So
They're the ones who go after
Glaive,
Vision.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
So Glaive is played by Michael James Shaw,
yep.
and Proxima Midnight is played on set by Monique Ganderton and is voiced by Carrie Coon.
Excellent. So Corvus Glaive was once a warrior dude who betrayed his people to enter Thanos' service. So he's the kind of first member alongside his wife, Proxima Midnight, and his brother, Black Dwarf, who is
Cull
that's
Obsidian.
the one, yeah, Cull Obsidian in this. So they changed the name of the film.
So he's played by Terry Notary, who is significant as an actor because you basically never see him as an actor. He's a little bit like Andy
I was going to
Serkis
say he's
was
about
towards
he's
the
Andy
start of his
Serkis, except
career. He does a lot of motion capture CG characters, and he does a lot of movement coaching as well. So he was the movement coach on all of the apes films, you know, the like
nice.
Planet of the Apes, the modern Planet of the Apes before Kingdom.
Awesome. So him and Circus obviously must have worked together as well. So Corvus has the glaive he has is basically it's capable of splitting atoms, so it can cut anything, including like Hulk, even the skin of Hyperion, who's basically he's basically Superman. And with the blade, if it remains unbroken, it makes him essentially immortal because it allows him to resurrect from any type of affliction, even from being like atomized. So as long as the blade isn't broken, he's basically immortal. Spoiler alert: in the comics, the blade gets broken, he gets
I mean,
killed.
as soon as you put some sort of caveat in
Caveat on
there,
it, you
it's
know it's going to be
pretty
a plot point.
obvious. Yes.
Completely. So the wife, Proxima Midnight, is the other one. Again, serving Thanos for many years in one of in like the Black Order's pre-squad, the Butcher Squadron. Not as cool a name. Which you get, but again, it's a similar kind of theme. It's a squad that Thanos sent out to do naughty things. You know, at some point she marries Corvus, and she has the spear. Her spear was made by Thanos, and it's one of these extravagant comic book named ones in that it was, you know, created from a sun trapped in distorted space time.
Nice.
So it's all kinds of funky stuff, and it can be thrown, and it can change its mass and its density and all that kind of stuff. But it's some cool thing. It can be thrown; it never misses mark, and one of these mystical type weapon things. It's even got like a powerful toxin on it and all that kind of fun stuff. So she's a laugh. It originally used to be like an ordinary trident, but as in comics, things change. Then we've got Black Dwarf. Cull Obsidian in the film is the next member. He's like the muscle. He's done loads of things for Thanos, obviously, and in the end, he gets killed by Ronan, the Accuser, with a blow to the head from the Universal Weapon. He normally has like this giant double twin bladed kind of axe as his kind of his weapon, so he's a bit different in this. And he did once have a big giant mace, but the mace was destroyed by Gladiator. So yeah, he's not as cool. And finally, to round out this quadrant, we have Ebony Maw, who, to be fair, in this film is probably one of my favourites. Again, he begins his service to Thanos in this Butcher Squadron, and kind of levels up essentially and gets on the main team. He's this. He's got kind of. He does have powers and doesn't have powers. It's a very weird way of writing it. He's like persuasive voice, so he's got this supernatural kind of. Basically, he can almost essentially not mind control, but yes, use like a bit like Purple Man, I guess, where he talks to you, and he can take hold of your thoughts and make them serve his own goals with just his words. Even like he did it Doctor Strange and stuff like that. And then he gets like these weird psychic links where he can kind of continue to manipulate people. He turns into an illusion that only they can see, all this kind of fun stuff. So, and he's got telekinesis and teleportation. And basically in this film, it's just telekinesis he pretty much uses. I guess you could say the voice in the respect of he's almost like the spokesman of them all. But yeah, the telekinesis is definitely the thing he uses in this film. Yeah, there you go. There's the Black Order. The one slight regret is that we didn't see them earlier in films. It would have been cool to just have had them in the background or something. It's just the whole introducing new people. Like suddenly he's got this team of henchmen. I mean, I guess you can imply they were out doing stuff, but I think it would have been nicer if we'd have seen some of these guys before.
But you could also argue that we haven't actually seen Thanos before.
Yeah,
We've
well,
seen
we've
a couple
seen,
of glimpses of him, but
and that's what
nothing
I'm
more than
saying.
that.
We've seen glimpses of Thanos, but even if it had been him in the background, even like when Ronan was having his chats with him, and he kills the other, doesn't he?
Mm.
If one of them was like in the background or something like that, I don't know. It would have been nice, but again, these are minor things. On the other hand, it's nice to have new people in the film because everyone else we know pretty much.
And so at the end of this scene, we follow the Hulk through the Bifrost, where we see he's kind of taken to Earth and he lands literally in the New York Sanctum, going straight through the roof and through the staircase.
Which is a homage to the kind of comic book story where this is what happens to Silver Surfer. He smashes through Doctor Strange's thing to warn that Thanos is coming with the gems. So it's a cool little homage.
And so we have Doctor Strange, played by Benedict Cumberbatch, and Wong, played by Benedict Wong, the Benedicts too. They don't know who Bruce Banner is because he's taken his banner form now, or who Thanos is and why he's warning them.
Yep.
And that takes us into the main title of the film. 3 Avengers in. The next one to be introduced is Tony Stark, played by Robert Downey Jr., who's running through a New York park with Pepper Potts, played by Gwyneth Paltrow, telling her that he had a vision of them in the future with a kid. He explains very quickly that he's got this new chest piece, which is not to kind of keep his heart okay anymore. It's to carry nanoparticles, which kind of loops back to the discussion that he was having in Civil War, where he was talking about the fact that he kind of doesn't know how to not be Iron Man. And clearly, he still doesn't know how to not be Iron Man. Doctor Strange arrives through a portal. Stark has no idea who he is, and Strange asks for his help. And you can see that Stark is clearly about to be like,
yeah,
no.
he's like clearly either he's super aggressive to him in a kind of like dismissive still thing, but then as soon as Bruce comes through, it changes it completely. He's like, yeah, because obviously they haven't seen him in like 2 years, have they?
Yeah, and that awkwardness from Bruce is brilliant. The whole kind of, I didn't know I've been gone for 2 years and I know this is awkward sort of thing. So that takes us back to the sanctum itself.
For some
Wong
exposition.
gives us a very quick reminder of what the stones are. His explanation is ever so slightly different to the explanation that was given by the collector in Guardians. So I looked this up before we started recording. In Guardians, the collector talks about before the dawn of the universe, there were 6 singularities. And after the Big Bang, they were condensed into these, what he calls ingots. and they were imbued with immense power so that no ordinary person could hold them.
Yeah.
In this film, Wong says that it was essentially the Big Bang that created these stones in the first place. So they're kind of subtly different, but obviously not in a way that is significant enough to be kind of like, oh, you've broken it and they're completely different now.
And quite easily, it could also be the fact that you could easily explain it away by the fact that it was two completely different people telling the story.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
like anything. It's like any legend or any story that like they're getting the information from whatever. So yeah,
Yes.
so
Yeah,
it's fine, isn't
absolutely.
it? Yeah.
The important thing here is that Wong goes on to explain what each of the stones are
Yes.
and creates the kind of threat of the film and the mission of the film, which is that Thanos needs to get all 6 stones. If he does, then the universe is at risk. We don't know in what way it's at risk yet. It
But we
just
know it
setting
won't be
up
good.
we're setting up the fact that he's going to try to get all 6 stones and their job is to stop him. We get a little bit of knocking about back and forth between all
Stark and
4 of
Strange.
them,
Yeah.
really. Stark and Strange clearly don't get on. Bruce
Which
Banner is
I love.
clearly way out of the loop on things. Sorry, you were going to come in on Stark and Strange.
I was just gonna say that I love because it's kind of works perfectly because like they're both experts in their own field. Like Tony, like he says later, I don't work for you like everyone else. You know, he's perfectly confident and arrogant enough, like Stark is, that they both obviously I just think it's a great pairing having those two because otherwise Tony would dominate whoever he kind of pairs with, and out of all of the lot there, then it's obvious that Strange isn't going to be one of them, which is nice.
They really are the mirror of each
Yeah,
other,
yeah,
aren't
which is
they?
I think it's a great little, it's a great pairing because it's kind of better that they can like instantly like buddy up kind of thing.
Yes.
It's
Yes, absolutely. So we know at this point that the time stone is with Doctor Strange
yep,
on his actual person in
yep,
the eye of Agamotto,
yep.
and the Mind Stone is with Vision, but he's turned off his transponder, which leads to Bruce Banner saying, "Oh, you've lost another Superbot." Kind of what?
Yeah, no,
What?
this is a nice.
How?
We get a quick kind of. We almost get a little soft rehash of Civil War because Bruce
Mhm.
hasn't been here, so we
Yes.
just get to remind the audience just quickly that we're not the band broke up kind of thing, which is quite nice.
Yes, he's a great vehicle
Yep,
through
for
which
exposition.
to remind people who have watched the movies and to set up the relationships for people who haven't seen any other Marvel movies.
Absolutely.
And then just as Tony Stark kind of steels himself to make this phone call on the phone that
The
Steve
flip phone.
Rogers sent to him at the end of Civil War, something arrives outside, so they rush out into the street.
As they run outside, there is chaos and pandemonium everywhere. People are running around, bit mental, and you see a spaceship. At which point we cut to Peter Parker, played by Tom Holland, and the hairs raising on his arm. So we basically get the Spidey sense or the Peter tingle. And he basically he spots the spaceship out of the window because his sensors go off, and gets Ned to create a distraction, which is hilariously seamless. Which also gives us our little Stanley cameo driving the school
Stanley,
bus. Very nicely done. Very nicely done.
love it.
At which point then, so there's all this hubbubaloo. People they're all running around trying to work out what's going on. Strange does his magic thing to get rid of all the dust. And again, another very minor thing that everyone seems to vanish very quickly. Like, like I mean, I get
Well,
it. There's a
they
spaceship
do
there.
stay on a very narrow strip
Yes, yes. It
of
just feels like
of
very
the
deserted.
thing. So actually, you only need to like run half a block and turn left or right,
I
and
think
you're
it's
out
just
of
more
the
something
firing line.
that I watch when watching this again is that when they're running away later, and they're going down the streets. There's still no one else really around, but it's fine. It's fine. They're all hiding because there's a spaceship.
That's because everyone else was sensible enough to go, there's an
Let's
alien
hide.
donut, run away.
But we get a nice little face off with Moore and old Cull. Well, obviously Moore basically does all the chatting. Obviously, Stark
Yes, Carl
jumping
just
in,
stands there looking menacing.
looking like muscle, and yeah, so we get a nice and as usual, like I say, Stark and Strange give them some jip back, and then like Moore just like, oh god, they exhaust me. Just go get it for me, would you? And as Carl Obsidian starts running towards them, kind of thing, Iron Man's like, right, time to suit up, Banner. But this is where he embarrasses him in front of the wizards,
Yes.
and he can't Hulk out for whatever reason. So they quietly sideline Wong to look after him, while Stark does his cool nano suit up.
I don't like his nano suit thing.
Oh, I think it's
I
cool.
just don't. I know for a lot of people it's super cool. I just don't think it's as cool as his other armors and
I mean, yes, I get you,
things.
because you
It's
are
just a
right.
bit weird.
It is now going way beyond the realm of, I'm going to say realistic, but you know what I mean. Like, at least with the
Yes.
other stuff, you can kind of see how it goes on in, but now it's proper nanotech, so now it's really
And
fanciful.
it feels like it's slightly forced, and it feels like a way of basically giving him an unlimited number of weapons that he can use because it's nano and they can just form whatever shape he wants them to be and it becomes a weapon.
Yeah, that's basically it.
It just doesn't it doesn't really work for me.
It's very comic book, and it is an armor that he has. But either way, it goes cool. So they start having a little bit of a fight, which is again, yeah, it's really good. It's a really good fun fight, and but
It's a great fight.
it's a great little fight. Sweet. Carl Obsidian starts scrapping with Iron Man. Strange gets rid of if your green friend isn't turning up, then he drops him in the park, and him and Wong start having a go at Ebony Moore, which is quite cool. Moore knocks Wong out quite quickly, and as it looks like Stark's about to get his ass handed to him by Carl Obsidian, Spidey turns up, which is wicked.
It's brilliant, and there's a great exchange and kind of picks up from Homecoming and the relationship that Tony and Peter have. But there's a moment when he's talking about Tony says to Peter that there's this stuff going on and there's a fight between an
He's from
alien
space.
and a
Is it a
wizard.
man trying to take a necklace from a wizard? Yeah.
The way he says it just sounds like comic book guy from The Simpsons to me.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
It's weirdly delivered, and I love it.
What is this guy's problem, Mr. Stark? He's from space. He came here to steal a necklace from a wizard.
But we get a nice little action sequence ending up with Moore getting the best of Strange, and then basically kind of knocking him out and trying to kidnap him. And Stark sending Spidey off on his mission. Kid, there's a wizard, get on it. At which pace he gets this cool chase sequence essentially, where he's following him through the streets, and Ebony Moore is kind of casually just knocking him away as they get beamed up, and then Wong awesomely saves Tony by teleporting Carl into Everest probably, or some snow place, and then as he jumps back, cutting his hand off. And
there's so many gags in this anything
scene
to do with Wong and Doctor Strange around things getting cut off in portals.
Yes.
So there's the car, the taxi when he gets rid of Bruce initially, and then there's the hand here, and then obviously we also have the historical examples of the Bifrost as a portal chopping stuff off. Again, part of that being a car.
Yeah.
And I love those kind of little gags. They just make me smile every time.
And they're really well done. And like the little parting line as well.
Wong, you're invited to my wedding.
As he just rockets off after Parker, and we get the Iron Spidey outfit. Because obviously Peter's hanging on in his cloth, or not cloth, possibly outfit, about to pass out, and he gets.
It is sort of.
I think it is cloth,
because
it's the one made by Stark, isn't it?
Because it's not like.
No, it is cloth. It is in it because it's got some weird sucky thing like Back to the Future where it adjusts to his body and stuff. But yeah, it is material at the very least. And yeah, either way, sorry. So we get the costume, the Iron Spider suit, which we saw briefly at the end of Homecoming.
Yes, which is the one that Peter sort of turned down.
Yeah, turned it down, and he kind of catches him and tells Friday to send him home, which Peter just instantly gets the parachute kind of deploys, and it looks like he's gone, but he's obviously not.
Yes. Yeah.
And then Pepper makes a call, but it only lasts so long because obviously they're flying away and they're going out of range of like the Stark satellites and all that kind of fun stuff. Telephones and
I don't understand why Friday gets cut off, because
her
Friday's
server
like
will be on Earth.
part of the suit.
No, it's not. It's a centralized voice. It's like Jarvis and stuff like that. It's not in his suit. It's like it runs the house and it's all over the place. So it's like imagine it like a computer server that's at home, and obviously he's out of range. And this is where we see that Peter didn't actually go down to Earth, surprising nobody. Wong then exits stage left, justifying that he needs to go guard the sanctum because the time stone's gone, which just nicely gets him out of the way. To saying why he doesn't hang around all the time. But then Banner picks up the phone, which is conveniently on the floor, luckily, and we see Steve's number.
Then we ping off into space again, and we hear Rubber Band Man by the Spinners, and it is
a perfect Guardians intro,
best
isn't it?
way. Yeah, absolutely. It is exactly how you want to introduce Guardians into the movie. And we mentioned in the last episode that a lot of this came from James Gunn's influence and discussions with him. So we find our Guardians on the Milano rocking out, including significantly Gamora singing along, who is, we were told, not a dancer by Drax in the first film. And then we have, teen Groot, who is clearly very much in teenager mode. So just quickly, for sake of completeness, running through our Guardians cast, Peter Quill, or Star-Lord, is played by Chris Pratt, Gamora by Zoe Saldana, Drax by Dave Bautista, Mantis by Pom Clementif, Rocket was played on set by Sean Gunn and voiced by Bradley Cooper, and Groot was performed on set by Terry Notary again, and voiced by Vin Diesel. So they very quickly arrive on the wreck of the Statesman, and Thor kind of thumps onto
the windshield.
And then we get a great kind of scene and sequence of classic Guardians back and forth, bickering and chatting and discussing things in
like
just a wonderfully comedic way. And it mostly is focused on how hot Thor is and how both jealous and insecure Quill is. It's also where Gamora gets the opportunity to expand on precisely what's happening with the stones. So just zeroing in on the stuff that we've learnt before, but also pointing out the fact that if he gets all of those things, the reason that Strange has said the universe will be in danger is because all 6 stones will enable him to wipe out half of life in the universe. So that's the big threat that's looming over everyone right now.
Again, this is the slight thing that it feels, I think we touched upon this in the last episode, where it just feels annoying to me that this is the big plan of Thanos is just like, ever since I've known him, he's always wanted to kill half the universe, which he's not mentioned ever. I was like, but I get the logistics behind it.
But it's never been relevant, has it?
Well, I don't know. I feel like I feel like it could, because both her and Nebula have been on about getting rid of and killing Thanos, and we've heard about him. It just feels like it's dropped into this film.
There's no reason for them to say, I want to kill Thanos
because he wants to kill the universe. I think it's a pretty good reason.
But you wouldn't say that about any other kind of baddie's intention. Like, you wouldn't say, I want to find and kill Ronan because of something. Because Thanos is outside of the stories that we've seen so far, Gamora and Nebula have only ever referred to him as this kind of thing that exists outside of wherever we have been at that point. And so I don't think there's ever been a need for them to reference.
See, no, I feel like it just feels too well literally dry. And I get the logic behind it in the respect of obviously they hadn't thought about how they, because remember they were umming and ahhing about whether to do things like death and stuff like that, introduce that, and they hadn't decided at this point. So I do get it from that point of view. It just feels like it for me. It would have been nice if there was some sort of acknowledgement, but again, when I
I
say
just don't
minor
think it
grills,
makes sense. I just don't think it makes sense that they would have done that, because Thanos hasn't been a character yet.
but he's been in
He's
it several
just
times, so
no,
like
but
I know he's only
hasn't
been in it a little
really though,
bit,
has he?
but
Because at
yeah.
no point has he been named, or have we seen him properly? Yes, you as a comic book fan know who he is. Up until he appeared in this film, I had no idea, without talking to you guys, that all of the things that we've seen get put together were Thanos, because he hasn't really appeared as a character other than the big purple chin.
And the big looming big bad. But yeah, again, like I
And
say, I mean, that's just my thing. That's just my thing. I just think that I feel like it would have been cooler if he'd have had some reference. But I entirely understand the logic and the points of views of other people. That's just my minor gripes. And after our little back and forth with Gamora explaining the big threat, Quill remains jealous, tries to copy Thor's language, how he speaks stuff like that. Thor basically obviously ignores him and just wants to take the pod, which like I say, Quill tries to stop him by imitating the God Man, and Thor works out where he's going, kind of explains again info dumping for everyone where the reality stone is, because we know he's already got the power stone, because obviously Thor has witnessed him, which gives the quick reference to devastating Xandar, which kind of not gets the backs up of the Guardians, more like makes it more of a priority for them. You can see it kind of underlines it a bit, because they obviously like, oh, what, Xandar's gone, it makes it real for them because they know Xandar.
Yes, exactly. It gives them a degree of
involvement in
buy-in to the story.
Yeah, saying about he's got the space stone. He thinks the Mind Stone and Time Stone, Mind Stone and Time Stone being safe on Earth with the Earth's mightiest heroes, and is Kevin Bacon, that nice little back and forth, a little joke of, oh, I don't know, I've not been back in a while. He could be on the team, who knows? And then underlines that no one knows where the Soul Stone is, which is important because Gamora does have has a look, doesn't she, at this point?
Yes, she does. So Thor has said that Thanos will be going to nowhere.
Yep.
But that before he can chase Thanos down, he needs to go to Nidavellir. I knew I was going to get that slightly wrong.
Nidavellir.
Well, yeah, they say it differently in the
film. They do. It's like Mjolnir.
Anyway, they are going to the place where Eitri will make him a new hammer. We don't actually know anything about Eitri at this point, just that he will make him a new hammer.
Yep.
So they agree to split up. The rabbit, the tree, and the pirate angel going to Nidavellir, and the morons going to nowhere to stop Thanos.
Then we go into our final sequence of introductions in Edinburgh this time, where we find Wanda Maximoff, played by Elizabeth Olsen, and Vision, played by Paul Bettany, in his much more human-looking mode. I think the first time we'll have seen him in his human kind of esque look in the MCU, who's worrying about the stone in his forehead. We get a bit of a clunky explanation, which I'm sure you loved. About
it's the clunkiest thing in this film. Like, they get through so much stuff so smoothly, and then they just clunk into, we've been sneaking around for 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, cool, thanks for that.
Yeah, exactly. But they're mincing around, and then they see on the TV the New York attack. And then at this point, Vision basically gets stabbed, which is a cool kind of moment, and instantly puts him back into his Vision appearance.
Yeah.
And kicks off the fight between Wanda, Vision, and Proxima and Corvus, which is awesome. I mean, in this, basically, Vision seems to get a massive debuff in this film, because he is like a really formidable, powerful character, and he gets proper bitch slapped around in this film. And
he does.
it's the knife. It's the fate. It's the thing. The thing kind of it messes with him basically. I think, and it's understandable. But it does
I
feel a
think
bit like
there's a good
good reason for it.
way of kind of depowering someone who is potentially overpowering.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it before with various different villains and good guys and bad guys that you've got to make sure you're coming up with the right balance to make sure that no one could, click their fingers and kill someone.
Or half the universe.
Exactly. I love the moment of Vision getting stabbed because it's a proper kind of shock.
Because it just comes out of nowhere, doesn't it?
And it comes from nowhere.
Yeah.
And then kicks off this massive fight, which, if you know Edinburgh, there are some great landmarks from Edinburgh, but there are also some from Glasgow.
Because of course, in any kind of film, they no, totally, yeah.
It's just one of those things where, like, that's probably why they just put up the thing that said they're in Scotland,
yeah,
as
rather
opposed
than
to saying they're in Edinburgh or Glasgow. Or, however, the street that they're in, where they first see the television, is my favourite street in Edinburgh. It's
awesome.
Right next to the Royal Mile, and it is beautiful.
I think there's a little in joke at the Scottish in the fact that there's a little sign saying about deep frying your kebabs. Which
that's real.
Well, yeah, it's more that they put it in.
Those signs are all real.
Yeah, it's the thing putting it in, isn't it? Because the Scots and my granddad's Scottish, so I'm allowed to take the piss. They'll deep fry anything.
They will.
Yeah,
they will. They absolutely will. My family are proudly Scottish.
Yeah,
as you can tell by my accent.
Yeah, Granddad 100% would do like that. But yeah, so which is a little bit funny. And then the fight is pretty awesome as it's almost like Wanda's fighting with an arm tied behind her back because she's trying to look after Vision at the same time, who's kind of handling his own, but at the same time, he's clearly in a bad way.
Yes. Yeah.
And then they're kind of, they end up in the train station looking backs against the wall, looking a bit doomed before we get a very awesome entrance of Steve Rogers, played by Chris Evans, the third Chris, Sam Wilson, Chris. Played by Anthony Mackie, and Natasha Romanoff, played by Scarlett Johansson, as they join the battle and absolutely trounce the baddies, basically. But it's just such a cool reveal.
I really don't like Steve Rogers with a beard.
he's in his nomad persona, which is like a Captain America thing. That's what he's in. He's in his nomad persona.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. I just
you don't like it.
There was it took away from the heroic reveal to start with for me because the train goes past and he steps out of the shadows and I was like, he's got a beard.
No, I think it looked awesome. But yeah, it's a cool little sequence. I like how when they get beamed up and the sword goes away as well.
Yeah, just flies off after them. And then afterwards on the Quinjet, it's clear that Natasha knew what was going on between Vision and Wanda, because the other thing that we have to remember here is that they were on opposing sides of the
split
in Civil War. So it's a high risk thing for Vision to break away and spend time with Wanda, because Wanda is a criminal, just as Steve, Sam, and Natasha are at this point. It's not 100% clear whether or not Steve and Sam knew what was going on between Wanda and Vision. I kind of feel like maybe they didn't, but it's not 100% clear. I just like the fact that Nat was clearly sort of facilitating it in a way, was just like, I will make sure that you get time together off the grid as long as you as long as I know where you are and you check in and everything else. And
all
then
right, Mum.
yeah, exactly. I'm in Scotland. Then Cap turns around and orders them to go home. And so the whole first act of the film is basically just spent bringing all of the key Avengers back into the world and setting up Thanos' mission. We haven't really seen anything other than pure setup at this point.
So the second act begins with a bit of backstory from Gamora. It's clearly a flashback because, hey, Thanos is in armor. Thanos in his army attacking her home world. Again, we get a little bit of the Chitauri kind of thing, a reference to the Chitauri,
Yes.
which is a nice touch because, again, I like these things. It all ties it all together, shows that he's got these things that working for him. And
It does, but it also shows with the Leviathans coming through the kind of portals in the sky and the Chitauri attacking and everything else. You can see what was supposed to happen in New York.
Yeah.
That obviously didn't work because the Avengers were there at the time, and Gamora's homeworld doesn't have the Avengers, and so kind of falls very easily.
We also hear obviously Ebony Moore doing his give his little speech,
Yes.
his little speeches because again he's the voice, and Thanos taking a kind of I guess a shine to little baby Gamora, and then we get a very weird. It's one of those MacGuffins, where here's a knife. Look, it's balanced, and you're like, oh, that's going to come up later.
Not so much a MacGuffin as
not a MacGuffin to say.
Really overt reference to here's a thing that you're going to try and use against me.
Yes,
shortly.
Yes. Yeah, and again, like I say, it'd have been cool if we'd have seen that on a. It's very small. It's a little pen knife. Obviously, it's not going to happen.
No, but I agree. That's one of those things where it would have been lovely if it was something that she uses regularly,
like her sword, which she does use regularly. If this had been where he gave it to her, but whatever. This is where you get the balance thing again. It's underlining the whole. I like to have things to balance. I want universal balance and stuff like that. And he distracts her while you just hear. Well, you hear the shots, and then it kind of pans up briefly, and you see like one load of people standing there, and then everyone else is lying down, probably having a nap.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. After this little kind of flashback, we're back on the Milano, which actually didn't they rename it?
You might be right.
No, they did. They did rename it, and I can't remember what the name is, but they did rename it.
I will look it up. There was Milano, there was the quadrant, which was the piece of the bigger Yondu's bigger.
Yep.
Oh, here we go. The Benatar.
There you go. You got it first. The Benatar, that's it.
So I've been confidently saying that it was the Milano, and in fact, for at least a film, it's been the Benatar.
Yep.
Excellent. Okay.
That's fine.
Good.
No one will care.
Right. Back on the Benatar.
So on the Benatar, Gamora speaks to Quill. She essentially makes him promise for him to kill her if Thanos gets her. She clearly knows something but won't say what because she doesn't want him to give it up if tortured, threatened, whatever, and basically makes him swear on his mother, which is the greatest promise he can make, and he agrees. And all while doing this, Drax watches while being invisible, inverted commas.
I love it, and it's
a very Guardian scene.
Exactly. It's exceptional within a film as large and complex as this to give this group of characters the exact same feel as they do in their standalone movie. So in all of their scenes where it's just them, it could easily be lifted directly from a Guardians film.
Yeah, 100%. It's completely, as you say, they don't feel like sometimes when you, or to be fair, like in comics in general, when you have characters guest starring in things and they're written by someone else, they will have their own interpretation of them, and they can come across differently, like massively differently, depending on the kind of the writer feels that, oh no, maybe they'll be like this, and they're not, and it's really sometimes quite jarring. Whereas in this, as you say, they look like they've literally just stepped out of the Guardians film into this, which is perfect.
Yeah, the whole Drax invisible thing, and particularly the button on the end of the gag.
I'm sure I'm invisible.
Hi, Drax.
But after this, they arrive on nowhere to find it completely deserted. They sit down, they're making their way through to the collector's place, kind of whispering, blah, 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 blah. And they see him being tortured by Thanos for the Reality Stone. Drax immediately wants to fight. Quill's trying to stop him, and Mantis stops him by making him sleep.
Yeah, Quill's trying to reason with him.
And try and stop him inside. But then, Mantis stops him and he thumps on the floor, which kind
Yes.
of basically alerts Thanos anyway. And Gamora kind of basically just charges in, poignantly stabbing him with the knife he gave her as a kid, which we all, we all kind of saw
Like
coming.
literally 2 minutes after.
2 minutes later, exactly, they introduce it and then she uses it straight away. And it looks like, she kills him, starts breaking down and crying, and no one's fooled for a second, thinking, "Oh, that's done. Cool. Okay."
But I do love Quill's line of kind of calling it out and
That was
being
easy.
like, "Oh,
Yeah.
that was quick,"
Yeah.
and in exactly the way that you do in the audience of being like, "Oh, that seemed ridiculous."
That seemed really easy and obvious.
But
Yeah.
but again, it's another example of writing the Guardians in the way that the Guardians have been written before, because that's exactly the way that Guardians films work, that they call out the things that
the obvious tropes
are
and stuff
really
like that.
obvious.
Yeah. So, as I say, that was quick. And then the picture changes and we see Thanos has used the reality stone to create a false picture. I mean, an interesting point about, the film in general is that what they tend to do is as soon as he gets a stone, he uses it pretty much straight away so you can see what the stone does every single time so far, which is quite a nice way of doing it. And either way, reality kind of dissolves around them, and you can see that it's already trashed. He's already got the stone. We don't see the collector. It's implied that he's dead, but I mean, again, and we don't know if they're following the rules of, because like him and the Grandmaster are technically immortal, so I don't know if they're following that in the MCU. We haven't actually seen or heard about either of their fates, but either way, irrelevantly, he's got the stone. He's got Gamora now using as a shield, and she's like, "You need to kill me." And then we get this quite, and Thanos is essentially egging it on, and it's quite a heartbreaking thing.
Oh, it's really heartbreaking.
Really good, doesn't it?
Chris Pratt and Zoe Saldana here really selling this and selling their love for each other and how far they've come, and you can just see in Chris Pratt's eyes the kind of, I don't want to do this, but I promised you on my mother that I would do this, and so I have no choice. And then obviously the reason that Thanos has been egging him on is that he has
the reality stone. He's got it all in control. Yeah, he's got it all under control. Nothing's going to happen. Yeah.
And it just turns out that it's a bubble gun now.
And then he just kind of vanishes away, essentially. I mean, there was a nice little bit earlier when he takes out Drax and Mantis in the exact ways he does it in the comics.
Right.
Because it's like he makes one turns to ribbons and one turns into cubes, which is exactly what he does with the kind of in the comics. So it's just a nice little, cool. nice little thing.
Yes. Yeah.
And so a genuinely heartbreaking kind of bit, and he bubbles them away, and that's that. And then we move to the next scene.
The little kind of space to Earth to space flow dance thing continues with the Quinjet landing at the Avengers compound in upstate New York, where Secretary Ross, played by William Hurt again, is on some kind of like 3D Zoom call with Rhodey, played by John Cheadle. No, not John. His name is Don. Ross is demanding answers about where Vision and the rest of the criminals are. We get a very quick kind of reference to / reminder of the Accords before the gang from the jet arrive, and Cap kind of faces off with Ross, basically saying, you need us, so shut up.
Yeah.
And Ross kind of, in return, sort of implies that Stark is Earth's best defender.
Yeah.
Which I liked. And Ross orders them all to be arrested, and Rhodey kind of says, yes, I will.
Yeah,
I will do that now. And then he hangs up and goes, no, I won't.
That's a court-martial, yeah.
And then there's this beautiful, awkward moment where Banner comes in, and obviously he hasn't seen that
Yeah.
since the end of Ultron, where she was trying to talk him in, and in the middle of Ultron, they had sort of reached a point where it felt like they were going to give this relationship thing a
They think
go.
whatever this was a chance, yeah.
And then he's, to all intents and purposes, he's just flown himself off and vanished for 2 years. So there's this beautiful, understated awkwardness, and then obviously Sam calls it out, kind
Yeah.
of being like, "Oh, this is awkward."
We get a brief on the bigger picture, and we also learn that Clint and Scott both took deals after their arrest in Civil War, so they're on house arrest. So there's
So they can't be in this film.
so basically they're not in this film, kind of thing.
We're just going to take at least 2 people out of this film. Just
Yeah, we've got enough people in the lady. We don't need these two as well. We're just hand waving where they are. Yeah, and also it's a funny thing that the one thing that Clint isn't involved in, they lose.
Mm.
But either way, yeah, and there's a bit of comedy, like I said, with Banner going,
"Who's Scott?"
Ant-Man.
There's an Ant-Man and a Spider-Man?
Yeah, just kind of catching up and learning the new
learning
people.
all these people. And then Banner saying that Thanos won't stop until he gets the Mind Stone, and Vision underlying that they need to destroy it, kind of giving them a mission.
Yes,
Giving us a bit of
and being
exposition.
very clear about it. He's not just saying it on a whim. He's genuinely been trying to think about the best way of dealing with it, and he's worked out that the best way of dealing with it is to destroy it.
Yep, and Wanda is the only one who can do it because they got the powers from the same thing basically. So her
Yes.
powers are on the same kind of wavelength. Essentially, they explain it up, but essentially Wanda has to be the one to do it, which is again that beautiful synergy of you can tell they're in a relationship, and it's the whole she has to sacrifice him for the greater good.
And the important thing here to me is because of the way that they explain it, it stops it feeling forced. Because it could so easily be, well, yes, they're in a relationship now, so of course it's his girlfriend that has to destroy it.
Yeah,
Actually, they do a really good job of explaining why Wanda is the only one who can do it.
yeah, and it makes sense as you say because of the powers. It makes perfect sense that
Wanda obviously says it's too high a price to pay. And we get one of these little debates among the team again that we've seen time and time again between everyone of, Wanda says it's too high a price to pay. Vision kind of says, well, yes, but
in his cold, logical, robotic
one
way,
life is worth less than all lives. And Cap, in his
very
big
Cap
sort of
way.
leadership way of we don't trade lives, and the debate around it is just really well informed. It's really respectful between everyone, but it's a very convincing, logical debate.
And it's very true to their characters.
Exactly. And obviously we saw it go horribly, horribly wrong in Civil War, but this is exactly what we have seen the Avengers do over and over again, is have these debates where there is no right or wrong. Certainly at this point, there's no right or wrong.
This procs the discussion with Banner about how they can probably safely take the stone off, and there should still be some vision left, so to speak.
Yes,
but,
it's Banner's way of kind of introducing it, saying, well, maybe we don't need this debate. Maybe we don't have to do this, because I think I've thought of a way around it.
If only we knew some super duper tech guy or place with lots of resources that could facilitate this kind of thing. But then Cap jumps in with, I got just a fella, which nicely segues us to Wakanda. Had they either not finished Black Panther or had just finished filming Black Panther?
Yeah, so I think they probably went pretty much from Black Panther.
I'm sure it was I read somewhere it was 2 weeks or something like that. So all the kind of Black Panther path are well in the character still.
It wouldn't have been far off for sure. I don't have the shoot dates to hand, but yeah, pretty much that. And in fact, I would imagine that this initial scene where they come across Bucky in the field, I would imagine that Sebastian Stan shot his scene from the end of Black Panther
Yep, the White Wolf.
in this shoot.
Yeah,
So
possibly.
again,
Yeah,
we've seen it time and time again within the MCU that the post-credit scenes are often shot by the director of the next film or the film that comes after
Yeah.
that to introduce those characters or those storylines or whatever. So I feel pretty confident that Sebastian Stan's work, if not Chadwick Boseman's and Denai Guerrera, who plays Okoye, would have been at the same time as this, basically. So this opening scene is essentially them going to collect Bucky and
Yep.
saying, "You can have your arm back."
Here we've got you a new one.
And Okoye kind of saying that she's rounding up the tribes and getting everyone lined up to help. We jump back into space.
Yep.
And we're on Moore's ship, or the Moore, as he's occasionally called, which I find confusing. And he's torturing Strange to try to get the time stone because there's some very complicated spell that he's put on it that only he can unlock.
Essentially quite a simple spell, but quite unbreakable, and
yes,
you can't get rid of a dead man spell or something like that. Yeah, so he's going through a bit of a bad time at this point. But I mean, remembering Doc Strange from his thing against Dormammu, he went through a lot of torture in that.
Yeah,
so he's probably got a decent amount of resistance.
Yeah, he's kind of built up some pain resistance and tolerance and things. So, yeah, for sure. And then we get the wonderful character triumvirate of Tony, the Cloak
of levitation,
and Peter, who then kind of arrives. And we talked about it during the Doctor Strange episode, but the Cloak is so good as a character in itself. It has so much personality. It kind of reminds me actually of the flying carpet in Aladdin.
Yes.
The animated
one, yeah.
The OG Aladdin,
the original one.
That's like, the world's best Aladdin and should never have been adapted into a live action film, but that's for a different podcast.
That's a different podcast. Yeah.
But yes, it's got the exact same sense of character and individuality to it. And I love it. Absolutely love it.
We get, as you say, with Peter being there, we get a nice little a bit of pop culture reference again, where he's trying to let's assess the situation, solve this for me. And we get the hey, this is another really old movie.
Yeah.
Referencing aliens.
Yes.
Which is nicely done.
It is. And there's something, it's both really funny that there's this reference to really old movies. We've obviously had Empire Strikes Back in Civil War.
Yep.
And now we've got Aliens. But it's also important that Peter is the one who solves this problem, because it immediately makes him helpful and useful in this situation, rather than being just this irritating stowaway. He's proven his worth, and that's important when you're putting him into a situation with these two kind of really heavyweight characters.
Yeah, so it's almost like an anticlimactic fight, because he just, I guess actually after seeing like the fight in New York, where Moore is more than capable of handling everyone. And then when he's facing off against Stark this time, he's like,
"Your powers are inconsequential compared to mine."
Yeah, but the kid's seen more movies.
And then just blows a hole in the side of the ship, and out he gets sucked. Gone.
Yep. And it is anticlimactic,
but it's in a good way. Like, but it just works, doesn't it?
Yes.
But the situation resolved. Spidey grabs Strange, pulls him back out. He finds the Iron Spider tentacles, legs kind of come out, which he's like, what the hell are these? Yeah. Iron Man seals the hole, bish bash bosh. And then we have, again, the Stark and Strange kind of ego fight about as they try and work out what to do next. With a bit of comic relief and, with Peter saying, "Oh, we're using our made-up names," when they when he
Yes.
introduced himself as Doctor Strange.
Yes, and the reference to Peter being Tony's
Ward, yeah, which is good.
which is a great little dig at DC, isn't
Yeah,
it?
pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. And like I said, then they game out the plan, don't they? Of can we turn around, or should we just go on to Thanos' turf and have the element of surprise?
And again, it's another of these important debates between the
A group of
Avengers.
characters. Yeah, yeah.
You know, it may only be Stark and Strange at this point, but there is very clear discussion about what's best. And ultimately, it's kind of Strange sort of defers to Stark and says, if that's what you want to do.
But I'm caveating it. If I have to
you're
choose
putting me
yeah.
in this situation, then you kind of need to know that you're going to be screwed.
Yeah.
If it comes to you guys or the Time Stone.
Yeah. And then Pete gets baptized as an Avenger.
Yes. Yes.
We actually remain in space for the next scene.
We do, yes.
Which is a nice change. Going to Thanos' ship to get a bit more about him and Gamora. She hates everything about him, the ship, the life. There's a lot of emotion there.
Yes.
And it's kind of clear that it hurts Thanos. You know, he wants her to succeed him. She is not willing.
No, she doesn't want to do that.
No, she does not. But he points out that he saved her planet by killing half the population.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially he goes more into his theories about how it's worthwhile to kill half of everything. And goes in a roundabout way that she knows where the Soul Stone is.
Yeah.
And
I think the important thing here is that it's imbuing a bad guy with logic. Whether or not it's flawed logic, which it obviously is, it's flawed logic, but the reasoning behind it does make sense. You can believe that someone could believe this, which is that killing half of the universe will allow the other half to live. Whereas if you don't kill half of the universe, then it essentially is just people and living beings will expand to the point where they all die off because they've used up all of the resources.
Yeah.
So, as you said, he knows that Gamora knows where the Soul Stone is and that she lied to him. And so he tortures Nebula, played again by Karen Gillan, to get Gamora to confess where the Soul Stone can be found. And
kind of reminiscent of the first scene where Loki has to give up the Tesseract because of Thor being tortured. So similar.
Yes, I agree. And it is another one of these examples where Nebula doesn't quite understand the lengths that Gamora will go to be a good sister.
Yep.
That the conflict between the two of them is such that Nebula, in her mind, Nebula would never give up important information to save Gamora when we first meet them. And then obviously that's now changed, and Nebula is essentially saying to Gamora, do not give him the information. I will quite happily be tortured if it means
keeping this from him,
achieve what he's trying to achieve. But obviously Gamora just can't deal with it, and almost immediately confesses.
She Vormir. So and you know, in we've not seen this planet. This is a completely new location, which is cool. I think that was the point of it. They wanted to actually say when they were doing this film that we're going to stick it somewhere that we've not seen before.
And there are several places we've not seen before in this film.
Which is nice.
Haven't been to Titan, haven't been to Vormir, haven't seen Nidavellir.
And speaking of that, in the next one, so they're now in the Benatar's pod with Thor's little team, Team Thor, and we get a nice little thing that we know Thor can speak Groot.
Yes,
which is a nice little touch. I mean, Thor, they don't touch on it in the film, but he knows the all speak because he's Asgardian, which is basically the comic hand wave of how you can all understand each other.
Right.
Like the TARDIS. And like the Universal
translation circuits. Yes.
Yep. And like the Universal Translate, the comlinks in Star Trek and stuff like that, it's the hand wave where you will hear the character speak in whatever language you are familiar with. because she knows
Yes.
the all speak. But there you go. So it is actually a thing in Marvel. They do address it, but as the standard sci-fi hand wave of this makes it
Yes.
more easy to explain. Not everyone,
Yes.
but because he's an Asgardian, he can. Yeah, I thought Rocket does some captaining in this scene. It's quite. It's a cool scene. I mean, he's talking him through his problems, but not that well. But he's doing his best.
Yes.
And Thor,
it shows that as far as they're able to, Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely have given every character a little bit of a forward journey.
Yeah.
They have developed the characters, and obviously you don't have time to go into masses of nuance and everything else, but Rocket doing captain stuff is not something you'd have seen him doing in previous films.
Yeah.
And so just taking that time to be like, oh, okay, I need to try and get him to talk about how sad he is about his brother and everything else.
And it's kind of a nice little, a quick catch up on Thor. Like, again, it's I mean, most people will have probably seen all these other ones, but it's just a little quick underlining of all the stuff he's gone through.
Yeah.
And then we get the next scene, the, you're going to need 2 eyes. And
Yes.
so again, Rocket stealing a prosthetic. It's just keeping up with that and gives him his eye.
That he should wash.
He should wash because of where it's probably hidden. And then they arrive at Nidavellir and it's all dark. The star's gone out, the rings are frozen. So at this point they land, start looking around. You see the mold for the gauntlet, which Rocket points out. And then they get attacked by Eitri, the dwarf, played by Peter Dinklage, with an amazingly dodgy accent. And also, I love how they made him giant.
Yes. Yeah, it was a great.
It's
touch.
absolutely genius. Dwarves, by the way, in the kind of MCU are very much the classic short, like in most iterations of dwarf. So I really liked her. Eitri being an actual character as well. He is the king of the dwarves. It is a thing.
But is he small? Like
yeah, no, he's small. Like
size?
they are all small. So I'm assuming they're implying that all the dwarfs in here are kind of giants. But
Yes.
but no, in the comics they are like little men. They're like Gimli and all that kind of stuff. They are that. And Eitri again, he's small. He's the High King, but he's still dwarf-esque.
The thing that impressed me about Peter Dinklage in this film
Yeah.
is that in Game of Thrones, his accent is terrible.
Yeah.
And in this film, he has studied really, really hard to make sure that it's worse than the accent that he had in Game of Thrones. It's so bad. It's so ridiculously bad. It sounds like the parody of someone doing a bad English accent. It's so bad.
Love it.
But yes, we learn that. Sorry, you've got notes. I saw you picking up.
You
your
saw pick a
notes.
paper. No, it's
Tell
just me.
Tell me.
Just seeing behind the curtain. Well, no, I'm just saying. 'Cause obviously, in this, in fact, technically, we're not here yet. We're not at the right point yet because we're not talking about.
So I just stopped to let you read your notes.
Yep.
And
because I was getting it ready, and then I realised that actually at this point we just basically get the exposition that
yes,
Thanos made Eitri make the gauntlet, killed all the dwarves who worked on the forge, and then disabled his hands. And then Thor kind of promises they can, defeat Thanos together. Because then we still remain in space and quickly jump back to Thanos' ship where Nebula kind of makes her escape.
Yes, just brilliantly kind of pops her eye back out to make the guard pop it back in, and then basically just kills him.
Yep, kills him, gets out of it, and gets a message to Mantis telling her to meet her on Titan, where still in space, Tony and Peter try and land the donut ship thing with partial success because they do land. Partial success.
They definitely landed and they weren't dead.
They weren't dead, so any landing you can walk away from is a good one.
Exactly.
They barely walk away from it, but they walk away from it. And this is where the groups kind of cross over because they get attacked by the Guardians in a cool little fight off, which involves
so good.
Yeah, which ends up in a nice standoff with Iron Man threatening Drax and Star-Lord with Spider-Man when they get the.
You're from Earth.
I'm from Earth. I'm from Missouri.
Yeah, that's on Earth, dip. What are you hassling us for?
So you're not with Thanos?
It's great, and Drax shouting, "Die, blanket of death!"
Yeah, and the little and again Drax against.
Do it, Quill.
I can take it.
No, he can't take it.
She's right, you can't.
It's so good. So good.
Essentially, they realise they're on the same side, and then we leave them and nip back to Etri showing them the mould for Stormbreaker, which,
Yeah,
here
so
comes the notes.
we we sort of saw like a vague thing of the hammer's mold being destroyed, but it wasn't. So I remember the first couple of times I watched it, I didn't really pick up on Mjolnir's mold being broken, and so it didn't make a lot of sense to me why they were suddenly doing an axe instead of the hammer when Thor had specifically gone there to get his hammer back.
No, he went there to get a weapon.
No, he said hammer.
Well, yeah, but
Definitely said hammer.
he may have, but he said a Thanos killing kind of weapon. But basically, Stormbreaker is an actual hammer.
Oh, yeah. So I will let you go into Stormbreaker now, because I fully recognise that Stormbreaker is an important weapon and everything else.
This was a surprise. I love this, by the way. Yeah, Stormbreaker is an actual hammer, which is Beta Ray Bill, Horsey Thor's. Again, favourite character, one of my favourite characters. Love him. He will be in a film at some point, and I'll be so happy. Basically, the long and short story is that when Bill first encounters kind of Thor, he picks up Mjolnir because he is worthy, and it ends up with, you know, they do their story, they beat the baddies, and then at the end of it, Thor's like, I can have my hammer back now, and Thor's like, well, no, I picked it up and it works for me, so I should really keep it. And Odin's essentially on the lines of, no, it really is his hammer, but you make a fair point. Why don't you guys have a fight for it, have a contest for it? Whoever wins the contest can get the hammer. To which Bill wins, and Odin's like, oh, okay. I really don't want to give you the Mjolnir. But because you're really, like, he proves himself many times kind of thing and saves Thor and all that stuff. And basically Odin's like, you know what? I'll make you a hammer. And so he goes to the dwarves and they make him a hammer, which is Stormbreaker. And it doesn't look like that. This is, let's say, very axey. This is like the Ultimates, remember the Ultimates, version of Thor. His Mjolnir looks like that.
Right.
And also in the whole kind of, as the mythos is, that technically the hammer can look like whatever you want it to look like, because it's a magic hammer back in there. So it can kind of shapeshift.
Oh, yeah, as in what we've seen before of, you know, it looks like an umbrella in Ragnarok at one point when he goes to Doctor Strange. He's carrying Mjolnir.
Mjolnir, and that's an enchantment
thing.
It
turns into an umbrella.
Yeah. So basically the dwarves have made a ton of awesome weapons. Stormbreaker's one. Odin's spear, so you know the big lance thing. Gungnir, I may have pronounced that wrong, but that's what we're going with. The Destroyer, technically, made by Uru, made by the dwarves. The Stormbreaker. Thunderstrike, which is a enchanted mace, which is a kind of... They reference in Ragnarok when Thor's got his little hammer thing at the start of the fight with Hulk. Hofund, which is Heimdall's sword, which is where I found out about that, like an idiot. And Mjolnir, obviously. These are all created from... It's Uru, which is the metal. So you see the ingots in the forge.
Yes, so I was going to ask you about that, because it's obviously not like iron or something like that, but it felt like it must have been a real material. They just don't actually explain what it is.
They don't, which is the whole forged in the heart of a dwarf star type thing. This is Uru. It's a... Because they don't really reference it, like you say, in the film, but this material is... the actual lore from like the old comics is it's from the first moon in existence and has like existed since the beginning of the universe. It's super old and super rare kind of thing. Said to the rubble from the rock of creation, the strongest substance in all the realms. If you want the full like kind of blurb on it, and it like resembles stone but has metallic properties, and it can store most energies, particularly magic, which is why it's got this natural affinity to magic, and it's really good for weapons, basically. And it's really easy to charm. It absorbs magic like a sponge, enhances the natural abilities of the wielder. Hence, again, Thor, God of Thunder, with Mjolnir and the thunder and stuff like that. So it's a really awesome material, but it's really, really hard to work with. Like adamantium in kind of X-Men and stuff like that, where they can only manipulate it when it's liquid, and when it's cool, it's unbreakable. It's a similar kind of thing with Uru. It's like, hence the forge being the heart of a dwarf star type, the dying star
because
type
it's
thing.
got to be ridiculous.
It's got to be ridiculous. Exactly. It's one of these things that there are only a very few places you can people who are capable of manipulating it. Dwarves being one of them.
Yeah.
So it's quite a cool material, and I guess in the film, obviously when we're here, we see the mold for Stormbreaker, which again, lovely little comment of that's a bit much.
Yes.
And him hand waving that it can summon the Bifrost and stuff like that. But their little mission, we need to restart the forge. And then we pause that story, and then we go back to Titan, or we go back to Titan. Yes.
Yes, and the plan that they are putting together is not that they are trying to kill Thanos. They only need to get the gauntlet from him.
Off him.
So the kind of the big picture being, we kind of know that if we try to kill him, we're likely to lose. So if we focus on the gauntlet, we're more likely to win. The Guardians don't exactly cover themselves in glory. I love the kicking names and taking ass line. And Quill again is trying to like stamp his leadership credentials and be like, I want to come up with a plan. And then Drax massively embarrasses him by being like, yeah, well, he did come up with a great plan to
the dance off.
a dance off to save the universe.
And we get Peter's opposite, obviously, because Peter keeps making like pop culture references from like the 80s and stuff like that. And then Peter comes in, like when he mentions Footloose, Peter's like, oh, like Footloose. I was like, yeah, this is the greatest film ever. And Peter's like, no, it's awful. Which is because obviously no one else has been able to do that to him, because none of them from Earth is his normal interaction. So it's quite good. I mean,
and I do love Quill's response at one point though, where he's what is it?
Don't forget, I'm half human, so that 50% of me that's stupid, that's 100% you.
Your math is blowing my mind.
Excuse me?
I just love that line. It's so good, and it's so quick as well.
Absolutely. And also, I guess while we're here, because now we're on Titan, which again is a place in the comics, because it's Thanos' home planet.
And then Mantis points out that Strange is being strange, and that he's kind of glitching out, basically.
Yep.
And he kind of stops and says that he's been forward in time to see all possible outcomes of the fight that's about to happen. And in 14,605,000, they only win once.
Dun, dun, dun.
So the second half of our film starts on Vormir, where Thanos and Gamora head up a mountain and they meet a shadowy death dude kind of person.
Yep.
Who turns out to be Red Skull, played this time by Ross Marquand. And he warns them that the Soul Stone exacts a terrible price, and the price is a soul for a soul. It's the thing you love most, which Gamora finds hilarious.
Yes,
because
at the start, yeah.
she thinks Thanos doesn't love anything or anyone, and so she's like, "Ha, you failed,
gotcha."
And then, and then he's like, "Ha, I love you. Oh,
bye.
I'm gonna have to kill you." She tries to kill herself, but the knife kind of
bubbles away again,
in the same way that the gun did earlier, and Red Skull kind of says, you're not allowed to do that. That's cheating.
Yeah.
You can't get the Soul Stone, or you can't prevent the Soul Stone, or you can't do any of those things. And Thanos then just throws her off the edge.
And she's proper panicking, and it's quite emotional again. She's not going meekly, is she? Bless her.
Yes, that's true.
Understandably so. Oh, the Red Skull turning up was a proper surprise. I love this.
And it was brilliant, because obviously we talked about it way back in the first Avenger, where we first see the Tesseract, and Red Skull doesn't die. He just disappears into some sort of portal thing, and we don't know what it is. And so to have him pop up again and be like, yeah, I kind of screwed around with this stuff, and it was a really bad idea, and so I'm now just cursed, and I spend my time here watching people kill other people.
Yep, I just float around doing this.
Fun times for me.
After he does it, we get a nice bit of a light show, and he then kind of just wakes up in a pool almost with the stone in his hand. So again, boom, we've got another one.
Check.
This is like a big smash and grab film. Where,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
The next thing we now do finally return back to Earth with the Avengers arriving Wakanda through the magical forest, which never gets old, being greeted by T'Challa and his guard with a nice bit of a funny prank from Rhodey, pranking Banner.
Yes, I loved it.
What are you doing? Yeah, Okoye wanting the Olympics rather than what's coming to their door.
Yeah, rather than a universe trying to kill them.
Yep, but either way, obviously T'Challa supports them. We get Bucky turning up, and then we get a bit of a chat where Shuri kind of assesses Vision and kind of embarrasses Banner for them not doing it right, which I thought was a bit harsh and a bit
I liked the way that they did it. Interestingly, for me, I hadn't seen Black Panther when I saw Infinity War. I have no idea why. I can't remember what it was, but I missed it when it was in the cinema.
Yeah.
And I'm not 100% sure if it had been released on home video. Video. On DVD by the time Infinity War came out. But regardless, I hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
And so actually, it really highlights how they introduced some of these characters to people who didn't know who they were. So obviously I'd seen T'Challa and Black Panther before, but I hadn't met Shuri. And so it was a really quick way of saying, like, yes, she looks like a child or a teenager, but she
really
knows
clever.
Vast amounts, because she turns around and kind of says, hey, this looks like a complicated way of doing it. You could have done it like this. And he's like,
didn't think of that. Yeah.
Yes, we could have. So I liked it, and it worked. It worked quite well. And it didn't feel like she was trying to embarrass him. It was more that she's just cleverer than him when it comes to this kind of stuff. And she kind of says, like, yes, of course I will get the stone out, but it's going to take ages.
Take time.
And, and then we see one of the big donuts coming down, sending landing craft onto the surface.
Yeah.
And the first one just kind of explodes on a
because it lands like directly on the Force Dome, and then they start landing outside. But it's an also visually, it looks so good. Just looks so good.
It does really, really looks good. And Vision kind of straight away says, "Do it now."
Right, yeah, time's up. Do it now.
But everyone else is kind of prepared to fight.
Like, get your ass back on the table.
To give him more time, because, he's their friend.
Yeah.
And this is what Avengers do. And the kind of sequence finishes with that great line from T'Challa of,
evacuate the city, engage all defenses, and get this man a shield.
As we're ramping up into our final fight here, we start really quickly cutting between all of the different heroes in all of the different places. So we've got all of the bunch of people in Wakanda, we've got Thor, Rocket and Groot in Nidavellir, however you want to say it.
Yeah, Nidavellir.
And we've got, no, there are two ways of saying it.
There's the right way and the wrong way. Anyway.
And we've got Iron Man, Spider-Man, Strange and the Guardians all on Titan. So we're going to try and keep track of this, but just bear in mind that we're cutting back and
it's going to jump around, isn't it?
Yeah. And we will keep randomly saying words or place names as we go. So Nidavellir is where we go next, and this is where Thor kind of starts using the pod to restart the rings by like swinging it around like a hammer at the Olympics, and then sort of water skiing across the top of one of the rings until his feet dig in, and it kind of starts powering up, opens the neutron star back up into sort of full power. But just as it's starting to work, the iris breaks, and so it cuts off the beam that
allows the forge to work, basically.
Exactly,
so,
exactly. And Thor says he's going to hold it open, even though it's suicide, which is the nice little exchange between like, oh no, the
No,
exchange
that's
on
next.
I'll do it only if I die. Yeah.
Yeah. Then we jump to Wakanda with the armies kind of making their way to the edge of the shield. We see Bruce jumping around in his Hulkbuster armor, which is awesome. And Carl Obsidian and Proxima Midnight approaching the dome for the pre-fight chat.
Yes.
I mean, just before that, we are rejoined by M'Baku, played by Winston Duke, who again I love, and the Jabari tribe arriving to stand shoulder to shoulder with everyone.
So I did a little bit of research on this.
This is cool.
That I didn't do for Black Panther, which I really should have done, which is looking into the chant that you get. So the first one that we come across here is M'Baku and the Jabari tribe. So Mayafa is M'Baku's call, and it's a call and response chant. So he shouts Mayafa, they shout Ya, and then he has who, and they say who. And it creates this beautiful rhythm. I love
so good.
This one.
So good.
It's absolutely beautiful. Literally, that translates in, I think it's Kosa, which is pronounced differently, but it's the African language with the clicks and things, and I can't pronounce it properly.
Yeah.
But it literally means win them, or beat them, essentially.
Yeah.
And then the main Wakandan chant is Ibombe.
Ibombe! 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 Ibombe!
And that means hold fast. And we have only heard it in these kind of military-esque situations. And I love it because it's a very specific cultural reference and underlying way of establishing that African culture that has been missing from everything else.
Yeah.
And reinforces the fact that this is Wakanda. This is their homeland.
Yeah.
That's where this fight is taking place. And so King T'Challa shouting Ibombe and having it shouted back, meaning hold fast, is such a great way of starting this fight.
Yeah. No, and like I say, just the audio of it sounds fantastic.
It does. It sounds fantastic.
It is brilliant. I mean, so Panther, Cap, and Widow have their chat with Proxima and Carl. First of all, it's implied that Corvus is dead, which is, anyone who knows any kind of comics things, you didn't see him die, he ain't dead.
Yes.
But then they, all you get here is blood and death. We have blood to spare, and that's when they summon a massive army of generic sci-fi baddies, or who are actual things. They're called Outriders, who appeared in basically in a free comic book in 2013. They're Thanos' little monsters. They're like genetically engineered creatures who literally their purpose is to serve their maker until they die. So they are completely the definition of henchmen. They are just mass-produced bodies who they could
look a little bit like frogs.
Well, yes, you thought they looked frogs. Yes. What kind of weird ass frogs do you see?
Frog dogs.
Frog dogs.
Yes.
But yeah, they just start running into the barrier and just forcing through. Occasionally a few squeeze through, but they just get shot down.
Yes, but it's easy enough to keep up with from the perspective of the people inside the dome, because they're essentially pretty much all dying, and then there's the odd one.
The odd few get through.
It takes one person to shoot them.
Yeah, Rhodey does his Apocalypse Now stuff. Dropping all his stuff on him. It's cool. It's wicked. But then they start to realise that actually and quite logically, why would they stand there, keep trying to the front? They just start circling around, and they can just push themselves around somewhere else. So what they need to do is open the barrier and basically draw them all into the front and then hold them off that way. Makes sense, great. And again, good for a film. We want to have a dramatic fight. Let's do this, Shuri.
But also logical.
Yeah, no, it does make sense as well. And they need to hurry Shuri up, but it's obviously they've only just started and it's going to take ages. So they're like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, because it sort of looks like she is individually disconnecting things with her fingers, like, albeit remotely. But yes,
but still, it's basically taking it one thread at a time, so it's taking
Yes.
ages. And then we jump back. Yeah, we're back to Thor, which is where this is where he gets the whole, it's like he's preparing to take the full force of the star.
It'll kill you. Only if I die. Yes.
He does hold the mechanism open, and the beam goes through him, and the forge starts, and the Uru kind of ingots start melting very slowly, but he's holding it open. It's pretty epic.
Oh, I don't know. They start melting pretty quickly.
To be fair, it's pretty quick. Groot kind of looking up, I think, at this point, isn't he? It's seeing a bit, because obviously he's being very self-absorbed at the moment, just sticking out of the way, but he kind of sees the pain and the sacrifice, and the metals all melted. There you go. That's the word. He pours it into the mold. It starts working. Thor collapses, understandably so, and flies back towards the main area. Groot tries to catch him, doesn't work, but then he's kind of like trying to see if he's okay. Eitree's focusing on breaking the mold open. He's got the two parts, but he can't find the handle. And this is where Groot kind of steps up. And I think, I could be wrong, this is a reference to the old Norse mythology of, like, I think when Mjolnir was made, it was going to have a longer handle, but Loki did shenanigans and tricked them, so it's shorter. And with the whole tree arm for Stormbreaker, I'm sure it's a reference to that with Yggdrasil and stuff like that. But either way, it looks cool. Groot makes the handle out of his arm and cuts it off, and then it falls to the floor, and you just see Thor's kind of fingers start twitching as the axe starts floating and the lightning starts coming. Awesome scene. Awesome.
Absolutely awesome. And it's another example of these tiny little character progressions.
Yep.
That Groot goes from this kind of self-absorbed teenager to recognizing that being part of this team requires little bit of sacrifice.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's willing to do it.
And after that, we pop back to Wakanda, where we're in full force. The fight's going on. I don't think we spoke about it earlier, but when the barrier's open and they all just charge towards it, and you see that cool scene with Cap and Panther obviously being the fastest, getting ahead of everyone else, and they're all fighting. At this point, though, it's starting to go a bit. It's going against them because they're being proper outnumbered.
Yeah,
they all get to that point in the fight where they're all starting to get like actually overwhelmed. It's all getting a bit emotional, and one of the best entrances of a character in, I swear, film history. This is such a fantastic.
I'm not sure I'd go that far.
Okay, maybe not film history.
It was good.
In comic book film history, I'll go with comic book film history rather than
I'm
all
not
films.
Even sure that's true.
Really?
But it's still a great entrance.
I genuinely can't think of a better one. But we'll talk about that. Basically, Thor's entrance into Wakanda this is honestly one of my favorite things. There's not much I can say about this apart from I love this scene so much. Everyone's expressions, like Nat's like, awesome, I know who you are. Of T'Challa, no idea, has no idea. You can see he's like, they're like, I don't know who this guy is. Bruce, proper like, yes, this is going down now. And then Thor, just the way he just jumps into the middle of them and just lightnings them all. It's brilliantly done.
And really reminiscent of the end of Ragnarok, where Hela has him kind of
with his eye and
almost dying, and suddenly he calls down the lightning, and there's the moment on the bridge where he just leaps into the air, and we get that beautiful shot of him coming down with lightning and everything else. And it's very reminiscent of that here. And we have seen it before, when Thor does his lightning thing, everything gets killed.
Yeah. It's pretty epic. Bring me Thanos. And then he just starts fighting, and it's awesome. And then we jump back to space. So back to Titan for a change of pace.
A little change of pace. Yeah. Thanos finally appears, and Doctor Strange is waiting for him all by himself. Obviously, there's no one else there. They've all just decided to leave, not hiding at all.
No, not at all. You see Chris Pratt's kind of little smile as they like from behind the wall. Yeah,
Thanos does his extended
backstory.
backstory as
Yep.
well of, you know, I loved Titan, it was amazing. Then it got destroyed because
They didn't listen to
they
me.
refused to sanction my plan of
Yeah.
genocide. And he thinks, again, it's going back to this logic point. He
Yep.
thinks it's merciful to kill half of the people in the universe because half of the people get to live.
Yep, dispassionately, randomly, and fairly.
Exactly. And then he just wants to retire somewhere peaceful, you know, as you do, kill half of the people in the entire universe and then just chill.
Just chill, relax with a job well done for a grateful universe.
Exactly. And then the fight on Titan begins. Begins with Iron Man landing a ship on Thanos' head.
Yeah,
which I
start
love.
strong.
This is the first time then that we see Thanos starting to use all of the powers of the stones at one time. So we have seen all of the individual stones doing their thing, but as he's attacked by the different people in the group, he is kind of firing off the powers of the different stones. And one of the things I think is brilliant about the design of this film is every time he uses a stone, whatever stone he's using, the impact is in the appropriate color.
Yeah.
So when he uses the power stone, it's purple. When he uses the reality stone, it's red, and so on and so on with all of them. And I love the way that they put that together. And you don't necessarily pick it up the first time round, but I'd really encourage people to go back and just watch this first scene on Titan, perhaps, of just the start of this fight, because you can really see him using all of the powers of the various stones color coded in the impact that they're having. We then get the death blanket wrapping itself around Thanos's hand, while Spider-Man uses his magic, which I love, just the magic with a kick.
Yep.
And everything that they try gets thwarted until the only thing that Nebula knows how to do
is ram with a ship.
She crashes into him with a ship. So just to do a quick count back, Rocket crashed into Ronan with a ship in the first Guardians of the Galaxy. Nebula crashed into Gamora with a ship
in Volume 2.
Guardians Volume 2. We've now got Nebula crashing into Thanos with a ship. There was definitely another one as well. Oh, it was Rocket again in Volume 2. He crashes into Ego.
Yes.
Yeah, they're big fans of crashing into
and in the first one, when they're
ships.
using the little maintenance pod things in nowhere, they start ramming through ships.
Yes.
Yeah, so they like it. They like it. It's a theme. But yeah, and then we get Strange, Iron Man, Spider-Man. They're all working together to hold him in place. We get the Crimson Bands, which is a very signature Doctor Strange spell to use it. And then they
the what? Sorry, the Crimson
Bands of Pyrotechnique. I can't pronounce it properly, but yeah, it's a spell he uses a lot, which is what you saw on screen, which is very cool. One of his signature spells, and to hold the gauntlet. And yeah, and then Mantis kind of reminiscent of Ego, drops him on his head and tries to put him to sleep. Yeah, and then they start confronting it. Well, Quill starts confronting him, Mantis makes it clear that he's grieving, and they're like, what's his monster got to grieve about? But it's where it kind of dawns on Quill, and Nebula kind of puts two and two together as well, because it's like, well, they went to Vormir with her, she's not there, and she came back with the Soul Stone, and then they're like, yeah, he now knows that she's dead.
Exactly. And it's one of those kind of a movie cliche, I guess you would say, but it's still a brilliant moment of, the heroes are winning. They are about to defeat the bad guy. And the fact that he's killed Gamora makes Quill kind of lose the plot and start just kind of punching and hitting and kicking and trying to beat Thanos up and kill him, essentially. And it means that Tony Stark has to let go and stop helping Peter to get the gauntlet off in order to stop Quill doing what he's doing. And as soon as he stops helping, and as Quill is kind of beating Thanos, it kind of
it knocks Mantis
pulls
off and
Thanos out of the kind of sleepy thing, the spell of Mantis, I suppose, and throws Mantis off. And then, Thanos breaks free and he has the gauntlet still.
It's like just coming off as
him,
well, and he grabs it back on, and
then he just pulls down a moon.
Yep. I mean, what's funny is obviously Strange knows all this is going to happen. Like this, because there's the one way that it's going to go for. So everything Strange does, like, because he probably saw that it's obviously got to happen. It's got to, Quill's got to do it. This is part of the plan, which is the funny thing.
Yes, I guess that's true. I think the important thing here is we don't know that. Like, Strange has said there is only one of these things in which we win.
Yes.
And
he can't say what it is, so we don't know if this is part of it or not.
Exactly.
And it's which is great. Which is great.
Yeah, and that's the important part of it as it stands right now, is we think that they were winning, and maybe that's the one way that they win.
Exactly. And maybe like I say, Strange knows that we've got to do it this way. He's got to knock him off and make it look like it's not winning for it to work later down the line. But either way, he pulls the moon down. It's awesome. And then we're back in Wakanda with it's a bit more of a fight now because Thor's there, and we get a nice, awesome kind of Rocket and Bucky moment where come
and get some, space dogs!
And they do that little kind of fun shooty thing, which like Groot does with Rocket and stuff like that, where Rocket's on his shoulder and stuff like that, and they've done that a few times in Guardians.
Yes.
And
I just love the image of kind of Bucky at full stretch, like both
holding him out
either side, one holding Rocket, one holding his gun, and shooting off. And then obviously the bit afterwards where we definitely know that Rocket is going to want the prosthetic.
Yep, and he wants the gun and then the prosthetic, and he does get it in the Christmas special. Definitely worth a watch.
And the little moment of I am Groot. I am Steve Rogers.
I am Steve Rogers. This is my friend. He's a tree. And I think the and the little exchange between each other about see, you've copied my beard.
Yeah,
like a little bit of banter between the two of them. Nice. And during all this, Wanda is standing still with Vision, watching the fight, and then the big weird, like this is another minor gripe. There's some really random wheel thing which doesn't look logical in any way, shape, or form. I don't know. It's just some big sci-fi baddie wheel crushy thing, which literally is like, what the hell is this thing? I mean, the point is it's trying to draw her out, which she does, because it's quite a big thing. Could have really badly killed everyone. At this point, Proxima tells Corvus, right, she's here, go do it. And he goes, gets the stone. Because obviously the guys who are there are literally no match for him, because he is pretty epic, and he just goes through all of it. Chewie can't stop him, and then we just see, well, he goes about to kill Vision, he's not there, and then he kind of just jumps out from the side, and then they fall out of the tower, little fight, and then we get the nice little just the women fight with Proxima, Wanda, Nat, and Okoye, while Vision is fighting Glaive, and Banner in his Hulkbuster
is fighting Cull.
It's fighting Cull, that's it.
So, Cull. So you've got Vision and Glaive, and you've got Banner and Cull. and Banner beats Cull without the big green asshole.
And it was a nice little thing, wasn't it? Like, I know you like to come in at the last second. Well, this is it. No! Fine, I'll do it myself, which is awesome. And then Steve comes running in to try and help Vision, and gets stabbed by his own weapon.
Yes. Which is, it's just ironic.
Fitting, very fitting.
Live by the big pikey sword thing.
Die
by the big pikey sword thing.
So back to Titan, and we kind of jump into the middle of shenanigans, because everything's flying around at the moment. Gravity's all over the place. Spidey is literally jumping around trying to web people and rescue them,
grabbing everyone.
Who he can't remember any of their names.
Yes, and is very apologetic for it.
Yeah, and then we get the cool. I love this little like one-on-one with Strange versus Thanos.
Yes,
again, I think some signature spells in here as well. But it's a really cool little fight between the two.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of matching powery stuff in here, and then he does the kind of multiplication type spell.
Yeah, I think that's one of his signatures.
Hundreds of him.
Yeah.
And then we kind of get the power of the gauntlet reinforced because, you know, Thanos very quickly and easily just
reality
makes all
him
of
or whatever.
those kind of fold back in to discover the real Strange again. And that's the point where Thanos is kind of like, well, you seem not to have used the time stone, which is the like super duper powerful thing.
Yeah, and then he just crushes.
I feel like maybe it's not here.
Yeah, it's all a decoy, all a fake, obviously. And then just throws him aside. In which case, Iron Man steps up to the plate now. They have a little bit of back and forth, like, you know me? Yeah, I do. Has a little cool fight with his nanotech, makes him bleed a like teeny tiny bit, and then Thanos just like beats him down. Basically, it's pretty epic. Stark's giving it all he can. You can see he's losing power because his nanites, it's all falling apart. Just like pulling the suit apart, and then just as Thanos is about to kind of proper kill him, Strange is like, no, right, hold off. You can have it if you leave him, which again is kind of important because obviously earlier when Strange is quite clear that I will protect the time stone. I don't care if you're about to die. I ain't giving this up. But that's before he's done the looking into the future thingy.
This is exactly the point, isn't it?
And he knows that Stark is key to the end. And
yes. And this is the one point for me where we know that this is something that Strange has to do in order for the one winning opportunity to
exactly
happen.
which is made clear by the fact that earlier he was very adamant that I will not save you, and the fact that now he does makes you think, he must know something, which is brilliant. And you know, he gives him the time stone, he takes it and then just portals away, and they're all like, why did you do that? And then we get the line, which is, at the time, didn't know because I don't think they'd released the name yet, we're in the end game now, which is all about the foreshadowing. But at this point, I don't think they've released the name of the final film. It's just Infinity War Part 2, I think, at this point.
Yes, it is.
And with that utterance, we're back in Wakanda.
Actually, hold on. Having just said the Endgame thing, the trailer for Endgame was attached to Infinity War.
Oh, was it?
With the new title.
Oh, okay.
So it was literally at the same time this came out that Endgame line became relevant.
Oh, there we go.
But as you say, we're now back in Wakanda.
It's all going well for the Earthlings because some of the ships start taking off. Thor is ripping through them all. You get the cool M'Baku and the Jabati tribe, finishing it off basically.
Jabari
tribe. There you go. It's getting late. Can't speak. So that's good. And then we see Vision dying, and he knows that Thanos is coming, and Cap calls everyone to him. Now, Thor isn't there, and I put this quite happily down to the fact that he doesn't have any comms units at all, because obviously Thor has his big weapon, and he doesn't. And you'd think this would be a perfect time for it to rock up and beat the shit out of Thanos, but he's off flying and destroying ships because.
But they're not all there at this point because
he summons them
at the very last minute. I do kind of take your point, but at the same time, I think it's just partially.
It's more me trying to justify the fact. It's more me trying to justify the fact that Thor specifically goes to Earth to kill Thanos, and then at the very point where it would have been really appropriate for him to have stopped him before he got the stone, he isn't there, and he only turns up at the end after the time stone thing, because that's when he must notice. Basically, I'm trying to, in my head, it's not a plot hole, but it feels like
no,
you know
it's not.
I'm trying to explain it away.
I don't think it needs justifying.
I mean, either way, they all get to they kind of go at him, and he just walks through them all using different powers. It's pretty awesome.
Yes.
And as we're in this, because there's different fights to the earlier ones, because again, he's just like slowly walking forward, and there's the ominous music playing, and he's just slowly working through them all, basically.
And it's that feeling of, is it this film or is it the next film where he says, "I am inevitable"?
Yeah, it's the next film he says, "I'm inevitable," but
and
it has that
it's
feeling of
exactly
inevitability.
that sense of like, as he's walking very, very slowly, and some of it in literal slow-mo, there is that just pure inevitability that he will reach Vision.
Yeah.
And then this really, really emotional moment between Vision and Wanda, where he says to her, it's time. And just that line of,
"It's not fair. It shouldn't be you, but it is. It's all right. You could never hurt me."
Oh, it's
good. It's really
so
good.
So full on. And the callback to their first line of or to the line right back at the beginning of the film of "I just feel you."
Yeah.
And then Wanda starts destroying the stone, and also demonstrates the extent of her powers again, that I think have been sort of kept kind of muted for a lot of this so far. But Wanda is both destroying the stone
and holding Thanos
keeping Thanos away at the same time. It's incredibly impressive.
Yeah. And you think, oh, she's done it because the stone explodes. That's great. And then we're very quickly reminded that Thanos has the time stone, so he just pulls it back. The explosion kind of goes back, and Vision is back, and the look of a little shock on his face, and her face is like, "Oh!" And he just gets backhanded out of the way, and he very unceremoniously just rips it out of his head.
Yeah, and the little the buckling of Vision's head just somehow feels so brutal.
It's so brutal because it's
compared to just kind of pulling the stone out.
Yeah,
it's the crushing of him.
But there's just way then he just casually tosses the broken robot, or android, sorry, to the side, and then, like I say, he puts the stone on. We get the dramatic energy flowing all over him, and that's when he's hit by a massive bolt of lightning. He fires back, and Stormbreaker goes straight into his chest. Thor gets his nice little, I told you, you'd die for that, and then you get the kind of, the quiet, "You should have gone for the head," and then Thor's literal moment of, "Oh God, no!" And snap.
Yeah, that little moment of recognition with Thor just being like, "Oh,
yeah, that's it." The snap happens, and we go into the Soul World next, where he meets...
that's where it is.
Yeah, because it's in the Soul Stone. Because she's
I mean, it's not entirely clear that it's in the Soul Stone though.
No, but I thought it was because of the ambience is the same as Vormir kind of thing when he's sitting in the lake. That's the kind of thing.
I don't think I made that connection, but I do kind of see what you mean.
But yeah, little young Gamora, saying, "What did it cost you?" "Everything," which, to be fair, is true because he's lost quite a lot to do this. In fact, all of his minions are dead. Yeah, he's his stepdaughter's dead.
His favorite daughter.
His favorite daughter, exactly, is dead. They're all dead. So he's sacrificed a lot for this.
They're all dead, Dave.
Everyone is dead.
He's dead, Dave. Everybody is dead. Everybody is dead, Dave.
Wait. Are you trying to tell me everybody's dead?
Yeah, that's it. And then we kind of clip back to Thanos, who just then portals away, and Stormbreaker just falls to you see the gauntlets all sizzling and crackled and stuff like that, and then he just teleports away. Yeah, and then it's time for the leaf blowing.
Yes, the leafing of people.
Yeah, as they leaf the film.
The leafing. Yes, so we go in order. Bucky is the first to go. Then a whole bunch of Wakandans, which is quite good because it kind of gives you the sense of scale of, okay, this is half of everyone getting blown away.
Yeah.
T'Challa
gets a line.
Then we get Groot, who is the first person that we start kind of getting the sense of grief from, because we have Rocket reacting to Groot going. Then we have Wanda, Sam, Mantis over on Titan. Drax, which is
scared.
the first time we get a sense of fear from someone. Then Quill, and Strange just reiterates for us, so we're absolutely clear. Strange says there was no other way.
It was
and
obviously
then
a plan.
he blows away, and then we get Peter's little death
More drawn out death
blowing type thing, and that's another kind of
hits you in the feels
moment of him kind of like, I don't want to go. It's really, really good. I like it. And then just that quiet moment of Nebula
just
realizing that this is Thanos. This is what it looks like when Thanos wins. And the kind of leftover team in Wakanda realize it at exactly the same moment. And then finally, we go to an unknown planet. So all of the other planets have had like a title come up to tell us where they are. This one is an unknown planet where Thanos has got like a peaceful little shack, and he's clearly completely trashed by the whole experience, and just settles to look out over this beautiful valley.
Yep. And then we get the post-credit scene where Nick Fury turns up. So we've got Nick Fury played by Sam Jackson and Maria Hill by Kobe Smulders as the leafing starts happening around them. So they're just driving, and then everyone starts disappearing. They look around, you see, planes start going down, and it's all starting to go. Yeah, it's all starting to happen for them. Hill vanishes. Bad things are happening, because there's like a car crash, I think, like that, and then he gets out to look at it, and there's no one in the car. There's just like these wisps of leaf kind of going away. Hill starts vanishing. Then Fury feels himself starts going, but gets his pager out first, presses it, and then before he says his signature "mother," he disappears, and the pager just clatters to the ground, and it's almost like it goes, beep beep beep, and then did it, and you see a logo which we haven't seen yet in the film. No.
We have not seen yet in
which
the film.
Is to those who are vaguely aware can see it, recognize Captain Marvel's symbol, but most people will be like, "Ooh, what's this?" And that's it. It ends. I mean, I will like that in the trailers for this film, there was a bit of a double bluff with Hulk being in the final showdown, and obviously it's just Banner in the Hulkbuster.
That's interesting. I didn't pick that up.
Yeah,
maybe I didn't watch the trailer for this one, but
literally in the kind of the final fight in the woods, Hulk is there fighting, running and fighting and stuff like that. But obviously he only appears technically right in the opening part of the film.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a good little misdirection. I like it.
Yeah,
but so in summary, going through it all again, are we still happy with our thumbs up? Because I certainly am.
Obviously we're still thumbs up.
Yeah, completely.
In a very, very big way. I there is just the thing for me that the end of this film is such a bummer.
I love it though. I love this.
Such a downer, and I love it in the context of knowing what's coming, but coming out of the cinema, I remember hating it.
I definitely loved
the ending. Like, I enjoyed the film, but I hated the ending because it felt like such a downer before you got having to wait an entire year to see what happens next and to work out whether or not I mean, as far as I knew at that point, all of the dead people were dead, properly dead. That was the end of all of those characters. And there was part of it that was a bit like, but I want a little bit of time to grieve for all those characters within. We've talked before about letting those kind of situations breathe more and stuff.
I think it was
like,
really
but they've
ballsy.
just rattled through people dying, and this is all a bit savage.
Yeah, I think that's what I liked about it. The fact that it was bold ending a film like that. Like, I mean, we all know there's a sequel. That was like not a surprise. So you knew that it was going to be resolved, but just the fact that it just ends. Like,
Yeah,
again,
I think the thing for me was not knowing
the fates of
that
the characters.
these people were going to get brought back.
Yeah,
It
totally.
was like it would get resolved, and you knew there was a sequel. But to me, it sort of my assumption was that the sequel would be the people who were left over hunting down Thanos.
Yeah.
And killing him for killing all of their friends.
Yeah.
I kind of didn't want that many characters to leave all at once in that fashion.
Yeah.
I think that's why I found it such a bummer. So from your point of view, did you always feel like everyone was coming back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because, again, like I say, it's in literally like a page and a half. They because you've got the time zone, you've got the Infinity Gems, and you can do whatever you want with them. You've instantly got a hand wave of we can get everyone back. Which is why in the next film, when they essentially resolve that quite quickly by, Thanos destroying the rest of the stones, you're like, oh, okay, that's annoying. But at this point in my head, I'm like, oh, that's fine. They'll get me all back. And part of me thinking, there is no way they're introducing Spider-Man and not... and getting rid of him that way.
Him off
there are no reason they're like Doctor Strange. I was like, there are no way they are killing him off, completely killing him off. I'm just like, that's not happening. And being poignant that the only the real survivors were the original Avengers.
Yes.
Which in my head again makes it like, well, obviously it gives them the last hoorah rather than them dusting. Yeah, it just So I get from your point of view, you'd be like, oh, are they coming back? But I was like, yeah, I was convinced they were coming back.
And that's our show for this week. If you want to rewatch along with us, next week we'll be talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp.
You can follow our show at MarvelingPod on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok and YouTube, or email us your thoughts on geeks@marvelingpod.com.
And if you enjoyed the show, we'd love you to tell just one other person about it. If you want to rate and review us in your favourite podcast app, that would make a massive difference too.
And that's it. Thanks very much, Ollie.
Thanks very much, Dave.